Right, let's kick off. I'm mindful of time. So first of all, good morning, everyone. My name's Kate Adcock. I'm Director of Research at Muscular Dystrophy UK, and you'll get a chance to meet all of the patient organisation representatives later on. But before we speak to those, I'd just love to introduce Professor Volker Straub, who's going to talk to us first this morning. So Volker, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kate. And yes, good morning to everyone and welcome to this first European community event for LGMD2I. It's very exciting to be here. My name is Volker Straub, and even though it's a German name and I have a slightly German accent, I actually live in the UK, and we have a center for patients with muscular dystrophy in the north of England, in Newcastle. This is where it is. It has this lovely Tyne Bridge, which was a model for the Sydney Harbour Bridge. But I don't live in Newcastle. I actually live in a little town that's called Hexham. And we are very proud of a cathedral there, the Hexham Abbey. And it has a little museum in it as well. And this museum tells you about the history of this cathedral. And it mentioned that this was the most beautiful cathedral north of the Alps when it was built. But it also says just 200 years after work first began, Hexham no longer had a bishop, and monastic life came to an end amid the chaos of Viking raids and settlement. So the Vikings actually came and they plundered and raided and stayed in the north of the UK for the next 200 years. No offense to any Scandinavians here in the country, in the room. And I mean, many of you who might be familiar with Netflix have seen The Last Kingdom or The Vikings. And it's really interesting that the Vikings, and you see this in the green, they came from Scandinavia, Denmark, and Norway, and the south of Sweden, and then came to the north of England, and the capital was actually York. And they made it to Normandy and then into the Mediterranean Sea and even into the Black Sea. Well, why am I telling you this? Because they not only came and left, they actually left their genetic imprint. Because the most common form of limb-girdle muscular dystrophy that we have in the UK came from Scandinavia. And all of the patients here in the room will have some far Scandinavian ancestry, most likely. The patients that are affected have a genetic change in their gene called FKRP, fukutin-related protein gene, on both of the copies of their gene, and their parents will have had one copy. And we know that in the north of England, where our catchment area is, this is the most frequent condition. I think it may have come from Norway. There's a beautiful publication from colleagues in Norway. And the highest density is in this little stretch of coast. And maybe that's where the genetic change originated. And geneticists actually are quite interested to understand why is the frequency of genetic changes in certain regions particularly high? Is there potentially an advantage? And we think that for those who carry one change, so not those who are affected, they may have had an advantage to protect them from certain infectious diseases. It's interesting that for FKRP, we have this in the north of Europe, and there's a similar disease actually in Japan as well, which is called fukutin associated muscular dystrophy. And this is fukutin related. And also there's a very high frequency of a genetic change only in Japan. And again, they might have had some protection, those who are affected by one change. Now, some of you may also be confused. Well, it's called LGMD2I. We always thought it's called LGMD2I. Do the scientists not really know how to call this disease? And I admit that we did struggle with the limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, and actually for that reason, initially, and this was in 1995, 30 years ago, two of our colleagues, Kate Bushby in Newcastle and Jackie Beckman in Paris at the time, thought, well, we need to introduce some classification. And there are two different modes of inheritance. There are so-called dominant diseases and recessive diseases, and we will call the dominant diseases LGMD, limb-girdle muscular dystrophy type 1, and the recessive ones type 2, and then we will just list them alphabetically in the order of their description. And they came to LGMD2I when this was discovered in 2001, and this was assigned to that newly discovered disease in 2001. They had no idea at the time that we will reach the end of the alphabet with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. There are so many. So all of a sudden it was LGMD2Z, and then we as a community said, well, what's next? And does it matter whether you change the name or not? While Shakespeare thinks it doesn't really matter, he said, what's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, no matter how you call it. But of course, we also understand that for patients and for all of us, a name is actually everything. That's identity. That's, what we are. So we had to change something, and there was an international consortium of people who said, okay, let's actually make sure that this is future-proof as well, and we will call the dominant diseases LGMD-D for dominant, and the recessive diseases LGMD-R for recessive. And then we'll assign a number rather than a letter, because we can go forever. And so in this restructuring, LGMD2I turned into LGMD-R9. Okay, and so people will still refer to LGMD2I or to R9, depending on how quickly you adapt or whether you're willing to change a name. But it's very complex, and we thought, well, it's actually important for also the patient community to understand what's going on, why, for example, we are changing names. And there is a fantastic tradition in Iowa City by my lovely colleague, Kathy Matthews, who is sitting over there. She's supported by her colleagues, Steve Moore and Kevin Campbell, my former mentor. It's a small community. Everyone knows everyone. And Kathy has established the Wellstone Center Dystrophy Family Day in Iowa City. It's coming up again in the summer. And it's really an amazing forum for families and patients to connect and network, meet each other, but also be informed about latest developments. And we thought, well, it would be great to actually have this in Europe as well. And let's start with LGMD2R9, because this is one of the most frequent limb-girdle muscular dystrophies here in Central Europe and in Northern Europe. And looking around here, I say, wow, what an outcome. So we weren't sure whether the patient community would really take it up, and it's great to see you all here. So I'm really thrilled. And I'm also thrilled by looking at the agenda that we have today, because with us, there are some of the really world experts in limb-girdle muscular dystrophy R9. Most of them are sitting around there. They're a bit shy, so they, huddle together there. You shouldn't be shy and also ask some questions. There will be opportunities actually during the day as well, and we will hopefully mingle a bit more. Now, on the agenda, you will see that many aspects of the disease will be addressed, care aspects. understanding a bit, heart involvement, respiratory involvement. What about clinical trials? What about the patient registry? So hopefully, at the end of the day, all of us will have an even better understanding about the disease. There's a slight change in the agenda that we circulated because Isabelle Richard from Paris couldn't join us, but there are other experts that will cover her topic as well. Well, most importantly, actually, for such a rare disease, we call it an ultra-rare disease, is that you need to always keep in mind that you are the experts as well. And it sounds strange for a patient who normally comes to the doctor because the doctor is supposed to know everything about the disease. But many of you will have experienced, if you would go to your GP and say, I have LGMD2I, they say, what's that? And you need to educate them. And actually, 99% of the healthcare professionals that you will meet in your life have never heard about this disease. And again, it's you who all of a sudden need to tell people, well, this is what I need, and this is what you have to look after. And the healthcare professionals also need to understand, and you need to tell them what's not related to your disease. Okay? If you have an appendicitis, it has nothing to do with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. So it's really important, I think, and one advantage of these days that this will also help to inform you as experts to spread the word about the disease. The agenda and some of the healthcare professionals will also provide updates on what's happening in clinical trials. It's really exciting that we have representation from the sponsors for all the ongoing trials. It is one of the most active areas in limb-girdle muscular dystrophies in terms of trial activity. Really amazing. So, unfortunately, you will leave this conference also without any of us prescribing any therapy. But I'm at least very optimistic that this will happen in the near future. Don't ask me what near means. So there has been a lot of progress in this field. It's very exciting to be here, joining you at the European LGMD2I Community Conference. This event would not be possible without a lot of support, and I have to say it's a really nice venue here, and particularly at the welcome reception yesterday evening, you thought, oh, how lovely to be in Amsterdam, despite the rain and the weather. So this was made possible through support from ML Biosolutions, AskBio, Atamayo, all of the three companies that are involved in current clinical trials. Also from patient advocacy groups, the LGMD2I Fund, from AFM Telethon in France, Cure LGMD2I, the Speak Foundation, Muscular Dystrophy UK, the Global FKP Registry, and support from the John Walton Muscular Dystrophy Research Center, which is our center in Newcastle. And before I end, I want to not just thank you all for attending, but I would like to also express special thanks for Heather Hilston and Lindsay Murphy. Many of you will have had email correspondence with them, I guess, as well. So the two of them, there's Lindsay, and Heather is just leaving the room. She's also very shy. They have made an amazing, fantastic job to allow us to be in this nice venue here. They actually also have made sure that the experts are coming, putting the program together. I've had very little impact. So thank you very much, and a hand of applause for Heather and Lindsay, please.